Zion Willaimson hit with another tough injury that's probably going to end him and the Pelicans season, even though they have one playing game left. We're also going to talk about the craziness around Jontay Porter, and we finally, I think, have seen it. We can put a fork in it. The Warriors are cooked. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. My name is Haize, host and creator of this channel. Make sure you guys are following the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it, man. And first up, this is breaking news, basically just come down the pipeline. Zion Willaimson will miss the Pelicans' second playing game, which they did have after losing to the Lakers. Zion Willaimson had over 40 points in that game. Was coming along down the stretch of that game, went down with only 3 minutes left, and then the Pelicans end up falling to the Lakers in that game, 106-110. It's unfortunate, and it may be the end of the Pelicans story in Zion. We had hoped that this was going to be the case where Zion would have been able to get in his first playoffs. He is able to play in the play-in, which is good there, but unfortunately, with coming down to it, the hamstring injury that he suffered, man, it's just unfortunate that he's going to go down yet again, man. And even though doesn't look like it's shaped up to be a 2-series injury, it looks like he'll be reevaluated in a week or so, which could very well, the Pelicans could be out in that game totally at that point in time. 40 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and going down towards the end of that game, a game which they're facing off against their former franchise player in Anthony Davis, man. It's a sucky story, man, to see Zion Williamson's season end yet again in the way his healthy season so far. Just sucks to see, man, because you always hope that Zion's going to have that opportunity. The Pelicans will take the floor again on Friday against the Sacramento Kings. And this raises the question of, there have been some rumors before that maybe the Pelicans could look or stop kind of building around Zion and maybe change that to build around Ingram or something. That way, Zion is healthy. He's kind of additive to the team. I think in a way that the Pelicans do have to do that, right, in some shape, form, or fashion. But Zion is just such a monster when he's able to stay healthy. The biggest question with Zion is, and until he answers it, will always be, can he be healthy at the right time when needed the most? And that's something that the Pelicans have to ask themselves as they go forward into the rest of this roster, looking at what they're going to do. That second tax apron is going to be a big deal for a lot of NBA teams. And the Pelicans, who have a lot of questions as far as future contracts, things like that, they're going to be right up against that. And so they're going to have to ask themselves, what realistically are they willing to pay for this team when their superstar is going to be, hurt for the majority of the time. Now, going into next offseason, the Pelicans are going to have $19 million under the luxury tax, so that's going to give them that little bit of space. They're negative $56 million in cap space overall, but then they'll have $37 million under that second tax apron. But every year that goes by, every year they got to re-sign players, especially if they have young players that they want to keep and hold on to, they're going to edge closer to that. So, the question in needing that clarity on Zion in the situation there is hugely important for this team. And, it's just unfortunate that it just keeps being, we keep having the question on injuries, because when he's healthy, man, Zion's a monster. And yeah, he's a flawed player to a degree, as every player is. There's no perfect players in the NBA, but Zion's just such a spectacular player to watch when he's fully healthy, man. And yeah, so we'll see what the future of that holds for the Pelicans, for Zion Williamson. But also, we got to talk about this. Another player who's done, right, is Jontay Porter. After being found out of betting on himself, he placed 13 bets that Jontay Porter made with a total payout of only $76,000 and net winnings of $21,000. He literally lost a potential NBA career in which he bet on his own team, and he bet that the Raptors would lose at that for net total of less than most people's salary in America. That's just that got to be some of the dumbest shit that you've ever seen, man. And Jontay Porter earning now that lifetime ban. He's going to be out there, and that's on him. This is something that is completely and 100% on him. And, once they said and looked at it, the direct quote here is, "There's nothing more important than protecting the integrity of NBA competition for our fans, our teams, and everyone associated with our sport, which is why Jontay Porter's blatant violations of our gaming rules are met with the most severe punishment. This is from Adam Silver. While legal sports betting creates transparency that helps identify suspicious or abnormal activity, this matter also raises important issues about the sufficiency of the regulatory framework currently in place, including the types of bets offered on our games and our players. Working closely with all relevant stakeholders across the industry, we will continue to work diligently to safeguard our league and game. So this sports betting has become more interesting as it's become legalized more, and more people are doing parlays. Just you kind of now hear more people just casually talk about parlays than ever before. The NBA is going to have a tough job to do to make sure that their regulatory framework is something that helps identify these things early on, which they pretty much did in this case, right? And you don't want to bet, especially on your own team. It's ridiculous, right? This is just an idiotic move, and it's something that unfortunately he's going to lose the rest of his NBA career for. Now, could he go play overseas, something like that? Sure, but it's not playing in the NBA. So, hey, this is what it is. And it sucks, but hey, that's what the update is. Now, moving on from that, I want to talk about it. Now, I had had the Warriors on my list as far as playing teams that I felt could be the most dangerous. And the Warriors last night against the Kings looked like the old team, right? And the Kings are a team that's still missing some very big parts of their roster, right? But ultimately, they just looked like a team that was just outgunned, outmatched, losing 118-94. And there was a lot of plays in this game where you could just tell that the Warriors they did not have that extra oomph that we've seen from them before, that extra gear that they kick it in once the postseason starts. That's done. And so it's raising many people to ask the question, right? Seeing the Warriors get dominated, even Steve Kerr after the game calling it a total domination. Is it finally over with, that it's done? This could be the end of this core of players. This could be the end of the big three of Draymond, Steph, and Klay. And it may be time for them to do that, for them to move on, right? When you look at Kaly Thompson's performance specifically against the Kings, that was ugly. And it's not the only time that we've seen Klay look bad in certain areas or in the playoffs, right? Kaly Thompson was 0 of 10 in 32 minutes, didn't score a single point in a postseason game. How many, not many people would have had that on the, even if you would have expected Kaly Thompson to have a bad game, that bad, 0 of 10, 0 of 6 from 3, it may be time to just let this go. And listen, I get it that Steph is going to try to get his guy to stay here. And I've always had it in my mind, what if they end up retiring together? But one thing that's evident this season is that Steph is still playing at a level right now, and he can still get to that level consistently. Even at being 36 years old, he can still get to that level. And Kaly Thompson just does not have that anymore. And that's not to say that Kaly Thompson, who still averaged 18 points on the season, right? 43% shooting from the field. Not like he's a terrible player by any stretch of the imagination. Still shooting the ball 39% basically from three-point range, only taking 9 per game now, right? But he's still a player that definitely can help a team for sure. But the level in which he helped teams prior in earlier in his career, even just 5 years ago, that's done. And in the Warriors looking, right? I over on Players' Choice on From the Logo show, which I'm a part of and I host on Sundays. On that show, I once talked about it and said this when it came to Kaly Thompson, is that he's a player that can definitely still help, right? But when you look at the things that's really shined with this Warriors team, is their young core. Moses Moody, Podziemski, and Kuminga, and then you got to also throw in not Moses Moody. Why did I say Moses Moody? Jonathan Kuminga, Podziemski, and Tracy Jackson Davis. Those are the three players that in their own separate ways have stepped up huge for the Golden State Warriors over this last stretch that they went on, right? And it's been a revelation to have those young players step up in the manner in which they did, because the Golden State Warriors needed that. They needed that shot in the arm from young players to come and give them a little bit more energy. And while this is still a Warriors team that can still play some really good games, they're going to beat some really good teams, they're going to win a lot of games. It's time, I think, to start phasing that out. And I know that's initially what they wanted to see, right? With having Wiggins step up, who's taken a large step back, right? And they hope that Jordan Poole was going to be part of that and them having to trade him away. But now you have this new young crop of young players, and it may be time to go ahead and say that this Warriors dynasty, this version of it, it may be time. And we see it with every dynasty. Some age more gracefully and they retire over time, right? Still weird that we ever saw Tony Parker play anywhere else, but that happens over time. And some come to an abrupt end. Some are taken away from them because of injury. This is a Warriors team that has suffered some major injuries over the course of it. Lost KD, signed KD. They still were able to win a title after it all. They've accomplished greatness. Make no mistake about it. They are a true dynasty that accomplished true greatness in this league. But I think it's time. It's just time to realize that if you do want to still find a way to compete, while you do still have Steph Curry playing at a near elite level, that's their right to do that. But it's time to start having the younger players being a bigger part of that. And it may be time for this core three. And don't make no mistake about it. Draymond got the deal that he got because it was a legacy deal, because of what he's done, what he's earned, what he's meant to that team over this amount of time. But it may be time, to look at Klay and say, hey, Klay, we love what you've done. We will help you put you in a great situation if we can facilitate a signing trade or anything else. But it may be time to let this dynasty that was a dynasty, this thing to die out naturally and just let it come to an end. It's over with. It's not. You're not going to retain that. And watch me say then they end up keeping it together and somehow they find a way to be dominant again next season or something. But this is the last year of Klay Thompson's deal, and I would not be surprised. I'm not calling it, but I would not be surprised if this is the last time that we also see Klay Thompson in the Golden State Warriors jersey. But let me know what you guys think on all the topics down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Show. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBACentralShow@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video, probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.